righty. Welcome everybody to Real Radio. This is another episode where I'm connecting the dots remotely. Yes, meaning me and the person I'm about to introduce are not in the same place. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're clearly seeing the person I'm about to introduce, but that's neither here nor there. However, well, let me do the intro first. So how did I come across this guest? This is another time where the internets are leading me in the abyss, and I'm lost in the sauce and browsing randomly, ending up on random pages. And I ended up, so what attracted me to this page? I think originally I read the actual handle wrong. So I was like, oh, I thought it had to do with music. You'll understand it a little bit. It didn't. And then, so now I'm on this page and I'm like, oh, what? Now, prior to that, this is the context. Prior to that, and this is like months ago, to show you how the universe is really talking to me, I believe. I had seen a show on a gentleman supposedly called the Iceman. His name is Wim Hof. I was like, what? And I think he's in Amsterdam or somewhere in Europe. So anyway, so I was like, oh, okay. So, and his whole thing was all the benefits of taking these swims in ice water, to be clear. So, okay, so that was in my mind. I watched that. I thought it was interesting. And then I landed on this page, which is called the Red Hot Chili Dippers. Get it? You see why I was fooled? Anyway, so Red Hot Chili Dippers. And really, this page is run by this lady, Katharine, who's also an artist, but mainly, apparently, a Red Hot Chili Dipper. And I wanted to have her on the show to talk about that. So, Katharine, welcome to Real Radio.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Super
now,
cool.
before we start, I was telling you I was going to do a little shtick. So I'm going to give the weather for a particular reason. So today, it's New York City. It's not where she's at. I'm just giving you New York City. We're actually scheduled to have a high of 34 and a low of 19. We have a winter storm warning in effect starting at 7 p.m. tonight till 7 p.m. tomorrow night. We'll find out if that affects any of her activities. Heavy snow expected. Total snow accumulation 6 to 9 inches. Now, Katharine,
Yes.
What does that tell you in terms of going to take a dip?
Well, I can hope that it's not windy, and then the snow will sort of settle on the lake and make this like, it could be like going into a slushy, like from 7-Eleven. And that is the best, because it's like, it's amazing. And it's like this white top surface, and you can kind of throw a stone and it just disappears and makes a little hole. It would have to be perfect though. Lots of snow, no wind, and it's not too icy. You're in. Here we go. Woo! Watch your back. It's definitely pretty surgy. This one is huge. Oh my gosh. Oh, there it goes. Woo! Oh my gosh. Awesome, they're coming after you. This one's deep. Oh, there it goes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, we gotta start at the beginning.
Okay.
What leads to this? I know you weren't watching Wim Hof and had the same reaction I had, because my reaction was, what? Hell no. But what's your reaction?
To Wim Hof?
Yes. Is that where the idea came from? I'm not trying to, that's what brought the thought in my head.
The idea came from a friend, actually. I hadn't heard of Wim Hof at the time, but this friend had been going in every month for 12 years in Vermont, like never missing a month. And I was like, oh my God, she is so cool. And I just thought, I wish I had the courage to do that. And so she kept inviting me. And I would just be like, oh yeah, no, I have to wash my hair. Oh yeah, no, I gotta feed the dog. I had every excuse. And then finally, oh my God, it was like December 22nd. And I was just like, God damn it, I'm gonna go. And I showed up, and I'm standing there with these 5 women. One was my daughter, and Elise she's kind of the leader. She was like, let's go. And everything comes off, and she just ran in. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. But I didn't die. And I came out and I was like, oh my God, I did it. It was like, for the little bit of time it took, I felt so happy. I was just like so proud of myself.
What
Like,
year is this?
that was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the start. And then I was just like, oh man, I want to do that again. Look how fun that was. It's so counterintuitive, and yet it feels so kind of good and bad and good.
Okay, so that's what I kind of want to focus on for people who are cold water averse like me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
What is that feeling? Is it even describable? Maybe it's not. If it's not, that's a fair, it's a fair assessment.
I mean, I think it's describable. I mean, it's kind of like prickly, and you're walking in and it's like, oh my God, what am I doing? But I feel like it's like there's this determination that you may or may not have to do it. And you're just like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And there's absolutely solid references to being acclimated. So yes, the first time you come in, you might look like you're being tased or electrocuted because it's so shocking. But as your brain starts to anticipate it, you kind of are strolling in like it's a warm day, and it's still cold on your body, and your brain is still going, oh, shoot, but you're not having the shock. So you kind of do get used to it in a way, kind of.
Okay. Okay. Now, are there like temperatures that you won't, is there a limit? Like
There
how
is a limit.
cold, what's cold?
Well, first of all, interestingly enough, there's a limit because once the water gets to 32,
Mhm.
below 32 is frozen. You can't get in. So
Right.
32, so once you get in the low 30s, you're like, well, other than the wind is a huge factor because obviously wind chill. Like if it's not windy and it's 0 and your car is nearby, you can kind of do it, it's like I don't know. It's like I kind of equate it sometimes to people who run marathons. Like no one is chasing you. You're not in danger. You're running it for the satisfaction of accomplishing something. And like and so like running the marathon, if you trained well, it's not fun. It's gonna suck the whole
I
way.
agree.
It's gonna suck the whole way. So, but when you finish and you get the time you wanted, you're like elated and happy. I feel like that's what happens with us in this, but it happens in a matter of a couple minutes. It's just like this crazy thing that you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And for sure, a pandemic buster. I mean, when things were just hitting the fan and you're just like the news was so bad, it was like, I'm gonna go to the lake because it just kind of you kind of let it go.
Are we
And
starting a conspiracy? Are we saying that this kills COVID?
not at all. No, it doesn't. No.
I'm
I
willing to go there.
it fills up your head with the thoughts of going in the water, and it resets you. So like when you walk into the water that's so cold like that, your brain thinks you're in danger. You are like, you could die. So everything, all the narratives, the news, anything, the former president, anything that's been bothering you in your head goes out. And it's you can't help it. It's just like your body's like, oh my God, this is very, very cold. We are going to die. What are we supposed to do? So I feel like there's nothing else I can do that resets me that well. Like if I go for a run, the narratives still play in my head. If I work out, I might hear the story, but going in the water, it's like all gone. It's like leave it in the lake, come out and start over. And you're just like, yes. So I feel like it's so positive in this short period of time.
How long can you stay in there?
Yeah, that's what I get asked the most. Sometimes when I'm just like, hell no, 5 seconds, I'm out. 5 seconds, just like not feeling it. Other times I might stay in a little more Wim Hof-ish. I might stay in for like 2 or 3 minutes. I don't have a rule, and I don't have any goals about it. I just want to do it. And so I feel like it should be very open, and it's not like I have to stay in for 3 minutes. And I think that's good. It's just go in for as long as you want. Um, if
And
you
what was my other question? So because I see there's sometimes you have, well, what is the gear associated with this process? By
yeah,
the way, you notice I'm wearing a beanie. I'm trying to give it's not cold in my house.
I
I'm
should
just
have
trying to
worn.
give this cold, this cold interview feeling. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I always I say to folks they should wear whatever they want. I have one woman who comes in a full wetsuit. It's great. Like, do whatever feels right to you. And she lost a daughter to an opiate overdose, and so like
That's
she's
so cool.
raising her grandson now. It's like, yeah, come in your wetsuit. Like, I really want to be open and inclusive. And if you want to just run in and jump out, if you want to go into your belly button and jump out, wear a wetsuit. For us, swimsuit, hat. Lately, I've been wearing this because it feels really good. I'm like, I'm not taking this off. I'm going in with this on. Um, Mittens, gloves, or hands under here to keep them warm under your armpits is really nice. But then the big thing is the neoprene booties, because your feet and hands get so cold. So I wear 2 pairs of wool socks, and then I pull the neoprene booties over, and then my feet aren't particularly cold. They're just like, I mean, they're cold, but they're not in pain. And to me, that, like, do whatever works for the individual is about, enjoying this process. And I feel like
Well,
that's
go ahead. I was gonna say I'm curious about the aftermath, right?
mm,
What is the so okay, I've talked myself into it. I
yeah,
go in, I got the booties, I got the gloves,
yeah.
I got the bathing suit, I do my 2 minutes. When I come out now,
Hmm.
one, what does that feel like? That so it's got to be warmer. It's got to be when you come out. And then what do I have to do? Because clearly it's still cold out, but I'm not wearing, a jacket or anything. So
Yeah.
what's the process when you come out?
Yeah, you're not wearing a jacket and you're wet. Like,
Exactly.
so the main factor is wind. If it is windy, it can be kind of hellish because you're just like, oh God, it's just, the wind chill. And you got wet skin, which is kind of dangerous. So we have long jackets that have fleece inside. If we're really in a hurry, I just throw that on immediately. Don't try to change out of anything and just go to my car, which if it's really cold, I make sure my car is close. Um, you kind of pick a location where your car can be, I don't know, 30, 50 feet away. It's good.
Okay.
'Cause-
Okay.
But if it's not bitter cold and you want to hang out a second, we bring a Tupperware basin and a thermos of warm water. So as soon as you get out, you pour the warm water into the thermos and immediately immerse your hands and your feet, because those are the things that are really going to bother you. Our hands and feet get cold and kind of can get to the point where you're like, can you zip my jacket? My hands are too cold, and you're like
Yeah.
stumbling around.
Yeah.
So I feel like the warm water is super helpful. And then it kind of buys you time to get your layers on. Some
Okay.
people will undress and get, we have dry robes, these big robes that give you some privacy. So some people will get that wetsuit right off. I don't. I just layer up. I don't want to take the time. I'll just like put stuff on, big wool
Okay.
sweater, and just like layer it up. And that's, everyone's different. And I don't like to take the time to try to get rid of that stuff because I'm not hiking out. My car is nearby. I don't really care if I have to have a wetsuit on for a minute. As soon as I put my stuff on, I'm not cold. So it's if it's not windy, you have time. If it's windy, that's a whole different animal. So we really try to find a place like out of the wind, and we know which locations are kind of hidden. It Sometimes you can't help it though. It's just windy and you just deal with it. But that's a big factor, that it kind of makes it a little more rugged and not as much fun. Like a glassy, quiet, even if it's freezing and you're breaking ice, if it's quiet and you just hear like the ice creaking, that's really so much more pleasant. I know it sounds crazy, but it is. It's like, it's
It
good.
sounds it's okay. Everything sounds crazy, but well, it's still enticing is the word here.
Okay.
So you got dressed, you went through this whole process. How often do you dip, or how often does this happen?
Well, I started out 5 years ago with a goal of once a month. But now I go mostly every day because,
Really?
yeah, I mean, it's just so exciting. And then we have this text thread of these like crazy nimble women, and they'll be like, I'm going at 4. And you're like, oh, fine, I'll go. Or somebody else is like, oh, sunrise, sunrise. Oh, God, all right. So I don't organize the daily dips. It's just this text thread depending on people's work schedules, and also wind, ice, snow, like what's happening in which location. So I kind of just follow along there, and I definitely um, organize open dips where I invite like the greater group and try to help people get in if they are interested. But that's once a week I would do that, not every day, because it's a little nerve wracking. It's a little hard getting new people in because you
Why?
want to make sure they're safe, and like I don't know if their body is right for it, because there are a few things that are could be challenging. If you had a heart issue, any sort of medical, your heart's not doing what it's supposed to. If you had high blood pressure that's not treated, if you're asthmatic, you can go into like a asthma attack. And there's like this thing called cold bladder amnesia, where too much blood rushes from your brain, and you're
Away
just like
from your brain.
stroking out and don't know what's happening, and it's pretty bad. And that would be an ambulance call. So of course I want to introduce it to people, but I also have in the back of my mind, like, this isn't a no-brainer. We're not walking around the park with our dog. It's like, this is kind of extreme. So I always hope that everybody is good. And then, of course, on a really more basic level, what's more likely to happen is someone's going to fall, because it's not the lake, it's getting there, because there's ice everywhere.
Oh.
It's like a windy day can make like these rocks like glossy ice. And so I'm always like barking at people, hands down, hands, like walk like a crab, walk like a monkey. Just if your hips are low, you won't break a hip or hit your head. But if you're walking, it's so easy to just get like, and if I don't like, I know my close group, but I don't know the new people. So I'm always like, I'm kind of always trying to watch them, and I don't want anyone to get hurt. That would be
What,
really, I would feel bad.
no, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
that I was actually going to ask you a question about safety. And you
Hmm.
mentioned some of the things that bring you concern when it comes to doing these chili dips. I
Yeah.
thought I immediately what came to my mind was a bad joke, but you didn't list it. I was like, well, the skin color count, because I don't know if every skin color is built for this. I'm saying that very sarcastically. I'm just saying.
Funny. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think, who knows?
I will break that mold.
Yeah.
But anyway, did I was asking you about, hold on, I got to go back, because I was earlier, when I was asking you about the come out process, you mentioned that you have a group chat,
Yeah.
that, because I asked you how, because my question after that was, well, how often do you actually dip, and you said there was a group chat. One thing I did notice by looking on your pages, it's mostly women. Is that for a particular reason?
Not at all. We welcome men, and we have quite a few men that come sometimes, but my daily group is mostly the women. I think men. I'm sorry, when you get to stepping in the water to the nether regions, guys don't like that. It's
That
like,
is correct. That
they
is
don't
correct.
like it, and they don't like to talk about shrinkage. So I get it. So
I
it's a
mean, it builds back up. It's not
but that
forever.
is, I'm sure that people just don't, the guys just, but we do have a lot of guys going in. We even have a new group.
Yo, I love you for saying that, because when I was thinking about it, I swear to you, that is the first thing I thought. I was like, what? Man, that's gonna be. But anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, you're a guy, of course. I mean, like, I'm sorry, that's
Yep.
just, I know that, and I get it. I mean, I can't really get it, but I think that discourages some men. But I think Wim Hof has given a lot of men uh the challenge, and like he's a pretty badass dude, and I think a lot of men are like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah.
So there's definitely quite a few men that go. but I don't see them as often. It's definitely, but there's a new group right here in Berlin called the Dipping Dogs. And it's like these four young dudes, and they're walking into some crazy stuff. Like
What are we talking about?
holding ice and just they have their a new Instagram page, and I was like, oh man, I want to go with them. So I was happy to see like some young men like also embracing it. And like I think there's so many benefits that I just think if people are curious about it, I hope they try it. And like they talk a lot about cold showers and the benefits, but man,
Mhm.
cold showers are almost harder to do for me. It's like, oh God, turning that dial. And
Yeah,
I'd much rather.
some of the knobs don't let you go all the way cold.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Here they do, but it's just so unpleasant. Where being at the lake in nature, first of all, let's talk about nature. Like, we live in a beautiful place. So it's like, of course, I want to go down to the lake, and I'm a visual artist. It's like, what am I going to see now? There's a bald eagle going over. Oh my God, there's the otter. Oh, look at this. It's just constantly. I said to my husband the other day, I have this insatiable appetite to see what it looks like next, and what's it sound like, and what's happening down there. It's only a mile away, so I have to go down a lot. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I think I need to go in. And it's like, ooh, 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 oh, I'm going to do it. And so sometimes there's like a little sneaky time. I can't stand it. I just got to go.
Well, since you're a doctor,
A
are
doctor.
there, I know, but we're gonna pretend.
Okay, okay.
Are there any health benefits to this? And
Mhm.
clearly, none of us are doctors here, but I'm
Right.
curious
Yeah.
um, because for two reasons. Just based, so from the Wim Hof documentary that I saw, and then some of the testimonials or I don't even call them testimonials. Some of the posts that you have on your page
Mhm.
speak about people, and even the way you described it when you went, and how it kind of clears your mind of some of the things that worry you.
Mhm.
But also, you mentioned a lady who lost her daughter
Yep.
to an overdose. But it seems like there's some kind of either spiritual aspect to this process,
Mm.
or maybe stress relieving. I'm not sure. But
Mm.
what do you think about that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think that I'm not particularly spiritual, but I don't know if I am, but I definitely feel the benefit of like entering this cold water and having this relief of anxiety and stress. It goes, you leave it in the water, and it can still be there when you get out. But it's also used with people with depression, because I mean, think about what they do for depression. If you had to go to the hospital, it was severe, they do shock therapy. Well, this is shock therapy, and you're engaging this vagus nerve, which I can't really talk about because I'm not a doctor. But the vagus nerve is like something that's back here in your face, and you, to immerse it in cold water, is supposed to have all these like benefits that make you like feel really good. And so I think that there's a lot of benefits that way. And also the other thing, Wim Hof, it's like they inject him with like E. coli and these flus, and he didn't get anything. So I think that I mean, I don't know, but that we're supposed to have a stronger immune system because you're testing your immune system all the time. I don't know if that's true, but I haven't been sick in a long time. And my husband had COVID in March 2020. And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I thought I was so cool, but I did get it. I was asymptomatic, but like, I thought, well, maybe it's from going in the lake. I got my blood work done, and I was like, oh my God, I actually had it. And I haven't been sick since. And so that's partly mask wearing and, not going out as much. But I think there could be something to that.
Will say, remember I told you earlier that we will be starting this conspiracy theory, or this rumor, this cures COVID. Don't worry, I'll take care. I'll
Uh,
take the brunt of the blame. Don't worry about it.
okay, okay.
I'll take it.
No, no.
Um, but speaking about cures and the benefits of it,
Mhm.
let's talk about the other side of that coin. Have you ever had a bad experience dipping? And if
Mm.
not, well, okay, describe that. Describe that.
Well, I think the main thing you worry about is people. What happens a lot is people in Europe and so forth, they fall through and drown, and we don't go in over our heads because we're lakeside. So that's one thing that I have going for us, is we're not going to deep water, and I feel good about that just because it's a greater group. One time this is super embarrassing, but I'm going to say it was all slushy. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to go under the slush and pop up. It's going to be hilarious. It's going to be so good. Well, I hadn't thought of it, but the center was firm and had frozen. And I didn't think to look. So I come up out, boom. And I like bumped my head so hard. All my eyebrows were bleeding and I had this big coma that I had to hide. I was like, oh my God. Like if anyone sees this, if I have to describe, all I could think of is please, I have to think of a lie. I can't go to the ER and say I need stitches because I was under the water. So that was one thing. So I learned something there. That was really stupid. And I do have a video of it. And I did finally post it. I couldn't even watch it for a while because it was like, oh, and my kids are like, what happened to your head? Oh, nothing. That's nothing. But that was just me being, I didn't think it through. And so, hang on a second. Al, can you get Taz? My dog is sitting there growling at me because he's like, why won't you let me in? So yeah, that was one bad thing. And really after that, and then one time we were on Valentine's Day last year and we were talking to this skater and he was just like skating around, but I was like, it's interesting because the lake was open the day before. It had been really cold and it had frozen and it was, but like literally the day before it was water. So we had made this really great hole. The deepest part was to our waist and we had about 10 people in there on Valentine's Day having a great time. And he's skating around and all of a sudden he disappears. And of course, and you're like, I've never felt so helpless. I can't run across the lake and give him my hand on the ice. I'm going to go in too. You can't, like, it's really hard to help someone who's fallen in over their head because you can't, if you don't know what you're doing, you need a rope and something to throw to them. So we're all sitting there and we've all taken care of ourselves about safety, but I never thought about what do I do if I see someone else go in? And so thank goodness he was really experienced and he knew how to get out. There's tools and you kind of put your arms up and you stab the ice and you stab the ice. If you have those things.
So he was ready? So he had those?
He was, he knew, but like to watch it happen it was really upsetting because he could have drowned. That could have been, and he wasn't that far from us, but I don't know that I've ever seen an emergency where I couldn't just go help. And there was nothing, we didn't have anything to help him with. So we now carry, we aren't carrying them yet, but we carry ropes. Okay. And so we could you could throw it out to him at least, or with a loop at the end. So I feel like that's the one thing that now we're more prepared to help others if you have some bizarre situation like that. And I hadn't thought of that before. It was like, it was pretty upsetting to see that happen, but he did good. He was, he knew what he was doing, but meanwhile, his partner on the side of the lake is just freaking out. Of course, it's like a bad situation.
Wow.
I know, but that's the only two bad things. And then people falling, and no one's really ever gotten really hurt, but you definitely see people wiping out, and that's like, like onto the ice. They're bending their thumb back, and they're hitting the deck hard, and so that's I try to avoid that because somebody could break a hip or hit your head. And
concussion. Okay, so bad. But good. You mentioned good. So you mentioned the fact that being in nature, you enjoy being in nature, and you also mentioned the fact that you're an artist. And I did do a little bit of research. I pretend I don't do research for my episodes, but I actually do. But you also share. I think you voluntarily put that information out there because you paint like landscapes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that how does the dipping help the art, or because the art was there before the dipping? Fair. So does the dipping help that process? By the way, for the people who don't know, you're like, Bob Ross 2.0. I'm only saying Bob Ross, when I was a kid, that was basically what the parents put on TV to calm you down. Anyway.
Bob Ross 2.0.
You're Bob Ross 2.0, maybe you came before him. Maybe I should stop giving these men credit. It could be you first. We just didn't know about you. That's all it is.
That's really funny. Thank you. I'm gonna take that as a compliment.
You're welcome.
But the dipping doesn't necessarily help my art, but it helps my mental health. So that helps my art because come on, like you gotta like, it's not like you gotta say, here's all the bananas, put them in the, trough at the grocery store. Like I have to think of what to paint next. And how, it's like the creative process is kind of hard sometimes. And so if I'm feeling good, I'm more apt to produce more. And then the other thing that it really helps is visually. Like if I weren't going in every day, how often would I wander down to the lake? Would I go at sunrise? Would I go again at sunset? Would I go to see the wind that's blowing up like, icicles everywhere? Might go once in a while. I would go pretty often, but I go really often. And so what's happening is I'm seeing things that I can't anticipate. And then I'm like flipping out, like, oh my God, I got to paint that. And of course I take pictures. So I feel like I get a lot of my material by going to the lake to dip or to scout. I often scout first, making sure it's safe. I also can't wait to see it. So I'll go down and then kind of report back. Like, oh
That's
yeah, it looks good over there. We just need a sledgehammer, but it'll be whatever. It's not bad. So you're kind of, yeah, again, it goes back to the insatiable curiosity of what's happening at the lake and wanting to explore. It's like every day is like, in the summer, it's kind of the same every day ish, but winter, it dramatically changes every day. From being completely iced in to then the wind came and now there's no ice. And then there's these icebergs coming and it's just so beautiful, and I love winter. It's just because it is so dramatic. I don't like drama in my life, but I love drama.
Are you traveling chili dipping? Is it,
um,
or are we staying local?
we hit up some local ponds and swimming holes,
Okay.
other lakes. I haven't gone far, and it's mostly probably pandemic driven because there's certainly a lot of people doing this in Europe, and you kind of get to know them and the conversation starts. So I think in the future I would love to be able to go to the UK or to Copenhagen. I mean, it's just like part of their life, and there's a ton of dippers over there, especially since COVID. They just are. Everybody's looking for a release and to get outside and do it safely, and I think that can be done. So it's interesting. And there's even like these barrels. They take their big trash bins and they fill them with cold water because they weren't allowed in the UK. They weren't allowed to travel because you couldn't leave, like you couldn't go like more than whatever 2 meters from your house or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
for real.
And
That
so
sounds like 2 meters.
yeah, so they would fill up their trash bins and just like get their cold water fix. It's like that's pretty rugged.
Is it safe to say that you're not going to be traveling to Florida?
Oh yeah, not anytime too soon. Not really against Florida, but they have a very different attitude about a lot of things. Right now, I'm waiting. I'm gonna wait on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was a pleasure having you on the show. I enjoyed and I appreciate you being willing to share about your experience and what you do. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
oh, before we finish though, I do
Yeah.
want you to share with the people where they could find out more information about you and your dipping experiences with your groups.
Yeah.
So go for it.
I mean, mostly it's through Instagram because that's sort of where it kind of got going, and people seeing pictures and then texting me or messaging me saying, "How do I do this?" So that's the best way to find me. And I've found some really interesting people through that, and it's been like the friendships have been really great. And if I can, I have a quote I wanted to share with you from a woman in the UK who made a beautiful film called "My Big White Thighs and Me." And it was about her just on a real struggle for finding happiness, and she had been through a lot. And so she had decided to go on this journey of finding cold water once a month and immersing herself. And I think for everybody, one of the biggest questions I always get is why? People are like, why? And I think like I wanted to share this quote because it just so perfectly describes what we all feel, and yet she says it so well. Her name is Hannah Taylor, and the quote is this: "So, with a few deep breaths and tricks of the mind, and a strong word with myself. I dunk. I'm in. It's too shockingly cold to think of anything else. And once your heart has steadied, a wave of exhilaration hits you, and you feel dizzyingly grateful to be alive. It's utterly brain-clearingly wonderful.
That
Like,
says it all. There's
it
nothing
does.
else
And
to
it's like,
add.
that's all what we feel. And so when I saw her film, I was just like, oh my gosh, I just, it's kind of cool when you meet people that are just such kindred souls, and you're like, yeah, she it's exactly. And it's like, that's like, to have her put that together was just like so great. And I love that it's a short film and it's so inspiring to me. It's just like, yes. So very cool.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that quote. I think it's a great one. It's definitely a great way to finish the show, but it's also a great way to synthesize the experience. I will say, when I do go through this experience, I'm definitely going to be adding curse words to that, because
Oh
the
yeah.
first time I feel like it's like,
Oh
but
yeah.
anyway.
I wish I could take you. Well, if you come up to Vermont, I'm only 6 hours from Brooklyn, so
I may.
we
You
could do a
can't
road
tempt
trip.
me. I actually have a friend. Don't tempt me. I have a friend who actually just moved there from here.
Oh,
He's supposedly a town manager. I'll see what that. I don't
all
know what
right.
that
Well,
means.
maybe you should check on him and then come see me. I'll take you in.
All righty.
I
So
won't
we'll
kill
be
you. It
we'll
won't
be in
kill
touch
you.
for that. I definitely need a guide. Put it like this. I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
doing
yeah.
it by
No,
myself.
yeah, yeah. It's good to have someone that knows what they're doing, and then you feel like, oh,
Exactly.
this, she's not gonna kill me. I don't think.
Exactly. So Katharine, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And hopefully I get more people to follow your page, which is Red Hot Chili Dippers.
Yeah, and chili like cold, not like the food.
Correct. Good. Excellent. And we'll be in touch. I may be in Vermont, who knows?
Yeah, it's not that far. It's pretty beautiful up here.